the best Legend of Zelda game. Without a doubt, one of the top 5 best gaming franchises, The Legend of Zelda. They've had games since, like the mid 80s? I want to say it's like 88 when the first came out, maybe 86. I don't know, but it's a franchise that has basically changed gaming, and honestly, it's my second favorite gaming franchise of all time. So this video, I'm going to count down the top 5 Legend of Zelda games. Feel free to disagree in the comments section, because my list shouldn't be everybody's list. It might be, though. Okay, number 5, I have Twilight Princess. I consider it the true successor to Ocarina of Time, if that makes sense. I know you can't view it strictly on graphics, but it didn't seem like Wind Waker was the true successor to Ocarina of Time. Maybe it's just the big open Hyrule fields that was gone in Wind Waker. Maybe, I don't know. But Twilight Princess introduced new items. I think it had more of a difficulty curve, honestly. Like Ocarina of Time wasn't really that hard. Like Wind Waker really isn't that hard either. But Twilight Princess, it's not so much hard as it's more like puzzling, if that makes sense. So that's why I put it at number 5. Number 4, I have Wind Waker. Again, I wasn't insulting it when I said it wasn't the successor. Wind Waker is a really great game. It reminds me a lot of my childhood. Not so much childhood as early teen years, I guess. But the open ocean, like it's the game's biggest selling point, and it's its worst enemy at the same time. Too much sailing, but at the same point, there's so much to look for. You know, there's like 40, 2 quadrants on the map? All those islands? I mean, really, it's mind-boggling. One of the moments that really stands out in my mind is when you pick up the Master Sword and all the enemies come to life, and you're battling every single one of them. It's just a great game in general. I mean, storyline-wise, it's the same thing, but with the Flood edition, it has a nice spin on it. Number 3, I have Majora's Mask. Honestly, I think it's one of the hardest Zelda games. At least out of my top 5, I think it is. I mean, the first 2 dungeons aren't really that hard, but the third dungeon, I remember I had the guidebook and I was still having trouble, which granted probably says more about me, but the game did come out when I was 6, so. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, the fourth dungeon wasn't that hard, but it's topsy-turvy, and you flip the dungeon, and the masks, so many masks. You know, all the side quests. Probably one of the best things about the game, well, not the best thing, but the most exciting parts about the game is when you beat the game, and you get the Fierce Deity Link mask, which is just the most amazing thing. And might I add that I think Tail would be a better fairy than Tattle. Number 2, I have Link to the Past. This was a Zelda game that I had pretty much ignored for most of my childhood. And it is a classic. Like really, even because I never really played it as a kid, the beginning of the game is so iconic. Like really, when you're just sitting there and your uncle leaves, and it's just like, oh, I wonder what happened. And you go and you find him in the under Hyrule Castle area. Not to mention the Light World, the Dark World. I don't remember how many dungeons there are. I think there's like 11. A lot of dungeons, a lot of stuff to do. Very open world. It's just, without it, this list would be completely different. Like I heard once that if you look at the original Legend of Zelda game and translated that more into a modern game, you have something more like Dark Souls or Minecraft, which I don't necessarily get how that works, but you figure Link to the Past changed the course of Zelda franchise history. Dare I say it wouldn't be as good without it. Which brings us to number one, the obvious number one at this point, Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is one of the most, iconic games. Pretty much everybody, I think, knows Ocarina of Time. It's got the great music. Honestly, I love the Bolero of Fire, and the Serenade of Water is pretty good, and the Minuet of Forest, not to mention Zelda's Lullaby, Song of Storms. It had its iconic songs. It had iconic gameplay. It had a new gameplay mechanic with the Z targeting system, which has pretty much been adapted to gaming as a whole. Not to mention, the storyline's not that great, but it is great. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but it's such a great storyline. You play through it, and it's amazing. Between, Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf having the Triforce, to the thoughts that you have to think when you play. Because it's like, Ganondorf didn't even get in to the Temple of Time without your help. So it's like, if you wouldn't have gone on your quest, Ganondorf wouldn't have gotten in. So basically, Link is cleaning up his mess. Not to mention the great items. I mean, the long shot, such a great item. The bow, the elemental arrows, I should say. I'm not a big fan on the hammer. The dungeons are so great, like the Fire Temple. Oh, the Shadow Temple's pretty good too. Very linear, but a good temple, in my opinion. The Spirit Temple, when you have to go through as Kid Link and Adult Link. Which brings up another point. There's the game as Kid Link, there's the game as Adult Link. It's like two different things. 100 gold Skulltulas to find. What is it? 36 heart pieces? Something like that. I mean, it's a classic game, and there's nothing else to be said about it. Well, there's plenty else to be said about it, but I'm not going to ramble on for another 4 minutes about how great the game is. Feel free to comment your list, or comment saying how bad my list is. Anyway, next week, on next Wednesday, I figure I'll do a top 5 gaming franchises. So, that should be something to look forward to. And if you didn't already, check out my other video, my Generation Pokemon Battle. Anyway, do that good YouTube stuff, and thanks for watching.